We are at chapter 13. The two men stood over the tangle of discarded ropes lying in the snow. Eric pursed his lips, then turned to Holt. Well, so far you're right, he said. The little beggar escaped once Oleg pretended to fall asleep on guard duty. He glanced sideways at the large Scanadian who had been assigned to the last watch. You did pretend to fall asleep, didn't you? He added with a touch of sarcasm. The warrior grinned easily at him. I was wonderful, Jarl, Eric, he said. You've never seen such a lifelike impression of a sleeping man. I should have been a travelling player. Eric grunted skeptically. So what now? He asked Holt. Now I follow him while he leads me to the main body of Temujai, the ranger said, as we discussed last night. I've been thinking about that, Eric replied, and I've decided we're going to make a change. I'm going with you. Holt had been walking towards a spot where the horses were tethered. He stopped and turned to face the Scanadian leader, a determined look on his face. We discussed this last night. We agreed that I would be quicker and less noticeable if I went alone. No, we didn't agree that. You agreed that, Eric corrected him. And even if you're right, you're just going to have to settle for being slower and noisier and make allowances for the fact. Holt drew in breath to begin a protest, but Eric forestalled him. Be reasonable, he said. We've agreed that circumstances seem to make us temporary allies, which is why you'll keep my 3 companions here as hostages, Holt put in sarcastically, and Eric simply shrugged. Of course, they're my certainty that you'll come back, but put yourself in my shoes. If there is a Temujai army out there somewhere, I don't want to take a second-hand report to my Oberjal. I want to see it for myself. So I'm coming with you. I may need you to track the prisoner, but I can do my own looking. He paused, waiting to see Holt's reaction. The ranger said nothing, so Eric continued. After all, the hostages might ensure that you come back, but they're no guarantee that you'll give me an accurate report, or even an honest one. Holt seemed to weigh the statement for a few seconds, then he saw a possible advantage. All right, he agreed, but if you're coming with me, there's no need to keep my companions as hostages to guarantee my return. Let them go back across the border while you and I go find the Temujai. Eric smiled at him and shook his head slowly. I don't think so, he replied. I like to think that I can trust you, but there's really no reason why I should, is there? If you know my men are holding your friends, it might make you less likely to stick one of those knives in me the minute we're out of sight over the hill there. Holt spread his hands in an innocent gesture. Do you really think an undersized little runt like me could get the better of a big, hulking sea-wolf like you? Eric smiled grimly at him. Not for a moment, he said, but this way I'll be able to sleep nights and turn my back on you without worrying. Holt couldn't help the trace of a grin that showed on his face. Fair enough, he agreed. Now, could we get going while these tracks are still fresh, or would you prefer to argue until the snow melts? Eric shrugged. You're the one who's doing all the arguing, he told him. Let's go. Aw, look at their little sprouting friendship. Holt glanced over his shoulders as Albert set his hooves more securely against the steep slopes. Behind him, Eric was swaying securely on the back of the Temujai horse. The captive had made his escape on foot, and Holt had decided that the small, shaggy, and sure-footed stepped pony would be a better mount for Eric than either of Horace's battle horses. This Canadian warrior, as was their custom, had been travelling on foot. I thought you said you could ride, he challenged, as the Jarl grabbed nervously at his mount's shaggy mane, holding himself in the saddle more by pure brute strength than any inherent sense of balance. I did, Eric replied through gritted teeth. I just didn't say I could ride well. They had been following the escaped Temujai warriors' trail all day. After making their way through the Serpent Pass, their trail had swung back in an arc from the Tenchulet border, and they were some 30 kilometers into Canadian territory once more. Holt shook his head, then went back to peering at the ground in front of them, looking for the faint traces that the fleeting Temuj had left behind him. He's very good, he said quietly. Who's that? Eric asked, the last word being torn from him as his horse lurched and slid a few steps. Holt indicated the trail he was following. The Scandinavian looked but couldn't see a thing. "The Timuj," Holt continued. "He's covering his tracks as he goes. I don't think your man would have been able to follow him." Which was the crux of the matter. When Holt and Eric had agreed to join forces the previous night, it had been the result of their mutual need. Holt's natural inclination had been to see what the Temujai were up to. Eric had the same need, but he also had need of Holt's tracking skills. He was only too aware of his own man's limitations. "Well," he said jerkily, "that's why you're here, isn't it?" "Yes," Holt smiled grimly. "The question is, why are you?" Eric wisely said nothing. He concentrated his efforts into staying astride the shaggy horse as it struggled up the steep slope, under the unaccustomed weight of the bulky Canadian sea captain. They came to the crest with a sudden rush, their horses scrambling the last few meters through the wet snow. Below them was a deep, wide valley, and beyond that another range of hills. Below them, on the vast plains, a massive campfire sent columns of smoke spiraling into the late afternoon air, spreading as far as the eye could see. Thousands of them, surrounded by more thousands of dome-shaped felt tents. The smell of smoke reached them now, not heady and scented like pine smoke, but acrid, and sour-smelling. Eric wrinkled his nose in disgust. "What are they burning?" he asked. "Dried horse dung," Holt replied briefly. "They carry their fuel source with them. Look." He pointed to where the Temujai horse had herd could be seen, a giant amorphous mass that seemed to flow across the valley floor as the horses sought fresh grazing. "Grawlog's teeth," Eric exclaimed, stunned at the numbers. "How many are there?" 10,000, maybe 12, Holt replied briefly. The Scandinavian let out a low whistle. "Are you sure? How can you tell?" It wasn't a sensible question, but Eric was overwhelmed by the size of the horse and herd, and he asked the question more for something to say than for any other reason. Holt looked at him dryly. "It's an old cavalry trick," he said. "You count the legs and divide by 4. Eric returned the look. "I was just making conversation, Ranger," he said. Holt seemingly singularly unimpressed by the statement. "Then don't," he replied shortly. There was silence between them for a few minutes as they studied the enemy camp. "Are you saying there are 10 to 12,000 warriors down there?" Eric asked finally. The number was a daunting one, as at best Scandinavia could put a force of 1,500 warriors in the field to face them, perhaps 2,000 at the outside. That meant odds of 6 or 7 to 1, but Holt was shaking his head. "More like 5 to 6,000, he estimated. "Each warrior will have at least 2 horses. There are probably another 4 or 5,000 personnel in the baggage train and supply columns, but they wouldn't be combatants." That was a little better, thought Eric. The odds had reduced to around 3 or 4 to 1. A little better, he thought. Not a lot by a long way. Okay, I'd like to thank you very much for listening to me read up to chapter 13. If you'd like to listen to me read chapter 14, then please stay posted, and hopefully I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.